Presbyterian Church. The project concluded somewhat a month ago, and I was out in Colorado, in Colorado Springs, Colorado, at a meeting where all 6 of these cluster groups got together and talked about what they had done in the 4 years and what they had concluded. Just as a side note, I mentioned this to some people last night, but part of this project, as a part of this project, I was sent to Africa. I was sent to Southern Africa, where I taught at the Namibian Evangelical Theological Seminary for a week, and then traveled and went to a conference on AIDS in Zambia. And in the meantime, visited Botswana and was in South Africa for a time as well. Basically, I was sent to Africa to spy on African churches. The Presbyterian Church was vitally interested in knowing why we're dying and the churches in Africa are growing by leaps and bounds. I attended a church in Africa, a small country church in Africa, where there were 2,000 people that showed up for a 4-hour-long worship service. 2,000 people. And that was only one of 3 churches that the minister was responsible for. The church is growing by leaps and bounds in Africa. And we were told when I was in Africa that 9 out of 10 Christians alive today live in Asia, South America, or Africa. 9 out of 10 Christians. Asia, Latin and South America, and Africa. The Christian church has left Europe and is leaving the United States and is moving eastward and southward. When we got together in Colorado Springs, we sat around and we talked, and we talked, and we talked. We had spent 4 years talking with our colleagues in these cluster groups, and now we got to talk to colleagues in other cluster groups. And fortunately, none of us, or maybe unfortunately, none of us came up with a solution. We were really concerned that others may have had the solution because we didn't come up with a solution as a cluster. So I was pleased to know that no one else came up with a solution either to the Presbyterian Church's problem. But what we realized in this, sort of after we'd done 4 years worth of this kind of work, was that it wasn't the work that was really that important. What became important for us were the relationships. What we really saw is that this gave us an opportunity to talk to people that we would not normally talk with. I talked to academics. I talked to academicians. I talked to professional biblical scholars. We are an exciting group, I can tell you. Right, Craig? I don't get a chance to talk to EPs and Senate executives and things like that. I don't talk all that often to ministers. Ministers don't talk that often to me. It was a remarkable conversation we had for 4 years, getting to know each other's lives and watching how people develop over a 4-year period, why there were births in our group and people changed jobs and all of that. We were all a part of that. Graduation, my daughter graduated from college. All kinds of different celebrations during this 4-year period. It was a marvelous group. We didn't accomplish anything, but the group itself was great. And the point was that the relationships are something that we often miss in the church. We're so busy doing that we forget to be. We really forget to talk to one another. We really forget to find out what's happening in the lives of other people. We're just too busy with our agenda, with our committee structure, to take time to say, who is the person creating the agenda? Who are you? What's most important in your life? What are your struggles? That's a remarkable, remarkable insight for academics to have, that personal relations are really important and really what the church needs to be about. I've had another experience. This is leading a Bible study. For the last year, I've been leading a Bible study for men. This has been a Bible study that has consisted week to week from 40 to 60 men. It's an ethnically and racially diverse group. There are African Americans in this group, there are Hispanics, and there are a number of gringos. Wide range of ages, age 20, 21 I think is the youngest, to people that are in their late 60s. Broad range of educational backgrounds, GEDs to PhDs. It's been a remarkable experience. Each Monday evening from 6:15 to 7:45, for the past year, I have done some heavy-duty Bible study with this group of 40 to 60 men. Now, this Bible study is probably like many Bible studies with one significant difference. This particular Bible study takes place in the Pennsylvania State Penitentiary at Camp Hill, which is a maximum security facility that houses some 4,000 inmates. Every one of my students is a convicted felon who is responsible for murdering or robbing or selling drugs or committing some kind of sex crime. Some are lifers. One has a sentence of 99 years. Another has a sentence that's he's been in for 38 years with no hope of parole anytime soon. Others are relatively close to being paroled. This is a remarkable group that I teach every Monday evening. And the interesting thing about it is that this diverse group all love Jesus. I was asked to lead this study by my wife. My wife is an ordained Presbyterian minister who's been in ministry well over 25 years, but she's been in parish ministry. And last June of 2008, she left the church to become the head chaplain at the Camp Hill State Prison. And so my wife asked me if I'd be willing to teach a class in that group. Well, I thought, when she first asked, that's pretty intriguing. That sounds like an interesting thing. And the first thing that popped into my mind was the story of the parable of the prodigal, the story of the parable of the Good Samaritan. Sorry, I'm getting the words mixed up here. The parable of the Good Samaritan. You know the parable of the Good Samaritan, but I'm going to read it to you anyhow. This is told in response to a conversation that Jesus has with a legal expert. And the legal expert wants to know what's the greatest commandment, and then he says that it's both to love God and to love neighbor. And then the text says, in order to justify himself, the legal expert says, and who is my neighbor? So here is what Jesus responds. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers, who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him. And when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them, and then he put him back on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, "Take care of him, and when I come back I will repay you whatever more you spend." Which of these 3, Jesus said, do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The lawyer said, "The one who showed him mercy." Jesus said, "Go and do likewise." Notice that the man doesn't say the Samaritan, because Jews hated Samaritans. What's interesting about this story to me is that the unidentified man who is mugged and left for dead is helped by someone who the unidentified man wouldn't have allowed to touch him if he were conscious.